Hello, my fellow ghouls and goblins, the strange ones out there, my fellow starlings. Welcome to A Witch's Perspective with your host, I, the Abysmal Witch. I come to you today to talk with you about the Witch's New Year. That dark time when everything in the mystery of death becomes open and possible. Yes, I'm talking about the spiritual side of Halloween and how Wiccans and witches engage with it to the best of my knowledge and understanding, which is imperfect, just as I am. So, welcome to this crazy insanity. I also consider this a time traveling episode. It's not... There is some invitation, at least maybe towards the end, on, again, playing with that, how we view time and how we engage with it. Tying back into the episode on how you view your week. And where does your week start? Well, in this case, where does your year start? Where does your season start? Where does your day start? Because Wiccan practice in particular, and to give the briefest of brief Wiccan, witchy kind of crossover explanation-y stuff, Wiccans and witches, two different circles, high amount of crossover in the Venn diagram sense. In other words, not all Wiccans identify as witches, not all witches identify as Wiccans. In fact, it's more definitive to me that not all witches are Wiccans, though I have in the past said that all Wiccans are witches, which there's probably people who no longer think that way, and I don't care. There's a whole host around self-identification when it comes to the pagan practices and spiritualities and religions and what somebody is. It is a combination of self-identification as well as identifiable practice, in my opinion. But that's a topic for a different day. Ew, excuse the frog out of the throat. Okay. So, Witch's New Year. Coming back into things. Okay, right, that's where I was. Sorry, little distracty brain. Oh, crazy day, crazy day. It's the sunshine, I tell you. The sunshine makes my brain fry. Scrambled, like eggs. Oh, a little bit of paprika, a little bit of green onion. I use dry green onion because I can't be bothered to grow it anymore. Oh, so good. So, Wiccan practice, particularly British traditional Wicca, it's kind of in the name, British Isles, very strongly influenced by British Isle practices and arguably more Celtic practices. And that's kind of as far as I want to say, because I can't speak to the amount of the influence or the precise location of influence, but there is influence from that area and how things are viewed, which are different from standard North American view and practice. For example, that the day starts at the beginning of when night falls, right? So the cycle. Now, I have been told this, for a moment backing up, I've been told this as a statement of fact. I'm putting little quotation marks on that one, because I've never actually gone and confirmed that research that I recall. I have read Ronald Hutton's Triumph of the Moon, which is an historian's exploration of paganism, particularly Wicca, witchcraft, mostly focusing from, I want to say, the 1800s forward. Covered a lot of, or even 1900s forward. Very much Gerald Gardner, like the second half of the book is Gerald Gardner and forward, but the first half is prior to. And maybe he does confirm it in there. I'm just saying that with what I can remember, I cannot credibly, affirmatively state unequivocally that this is truth. This is my best recollection and understanding. I may also have been misinformed. But this is how I have behaved and treated it as my personal practice and the practice of those that I work with for basically the entire time that I have been practicing the craft. So that done, that the cycle of the day, English, so misleading, so problematic, doesn't start, it starts with day fall, if you will, that we have as we go into darkness and into night. That is the beginning of the cycle, which is why I think that we see so many things that are, Halloween, which you probably already know, I believe is the shortened form of All Hallows Eve. And then, get a little lazy in that diction and mouth the movements. And then before you know it, All Hallows Eve becomes Halloween. And here we are with another amazingly commercialized holiday, still not on par with Christmas, which has been viciously commercialized. I have very many feelings about that, but that's not the point of today's this episode podcast. No, so we start at the end. Start at the very end. It's a very good place to start, because that's how, there is only one, there's some term in philosophy, like the first mover or something. There had to be the first thing, and then everything else came after. Well, we start at endings. We start in the nothingness. We start in the darkness, which means that we start the counting of the day, the experience, on the night before, is how we speak about it in English, because in the North American practice, or English-speaking practice, currently, we really go from sunrise to sunrise, not sunset to sunset. And so our language follows that. But in the Wiccan practice, we go from sunset to sunset, or at least that is the handed down practice. I don't know if people think about that particularly much these days. Don't know, not plugged in enough. Anyhow, so we start in the evening, which is why so many things are like Halloween is celebrating the evening before. And what I have found myself is that the magical component is the evening before, the strong ritual, the power. And then the next day becomes the more open celebration, the feasting and such through the day, and celebrating the energy and the feelings for the morning and the afternoon, until again night falls, and then everything is completed. So it starts in the darkness. So does the year. Now, starting in darkness does it really start at dusk? I don't know that it does. I feel like when full night has fallen, not that in between spot as we're transitioning, but when full night has fallen, that's when, certainly when we would do the ritual part, when it feels right. So I see that as well for the year, because this is going to get weirdly technical without basis, I suspect. Basis, again, as in I can't refer to historical records that would affirm my beliefs on this. But I can tell you that Halloween is the witch's new year. So I've been told my entire Wiccan career, and has been my practice. There are so many New Years, by the way, throughout the year, in case you haven't noticed. There's the Julian calendar New Year's, the standard, January 1st. And there's the Chinese New Year. There's the Wiccan, witchy pagan, if you will, expand it that far. New Year's, some people consider the equinox a new year. There's a couple other years. Year cycles happen all over the place, and it's just about marking where's the point at which you wish to begin looking at something. And this ties into that time travel, right? When we can decide that Saturday's the first day of the week. It doesn't have to be a Monday that's the first day. And by making that decision, we change our relationship we change our perspective on our relationship with that time, and also therefore our, not just our perspective, but also the relationship. Sorry, coughing fit. Don't want to give it to you. Been feeling like I'm having allergies lately. Nose runs causes coughing. Oh my God, and I'm using words. Very sorry, and since I don't edit at this point, also extra sorry. Okay, so we have Witch's New Year. My geeky-ish spot is to look at it and go, actually, let me hold off on the geeky for a minute. I know, disjointed. When am I not? So, let's get the naming thing out of the way. So I've mentioned about All Hallows Eve and Halloween, but most Wiccans will use the, is it Celtic or Gaelic? I'm pretty sure it comes from the Gaelic, but we say Celtic anyway. Word spelled Samhain, and because the spellings and the pronunciations in Gaelic do not align in ways that we are used to, it is not pronounced Samhain. It is pronounced Samhain, which most people will say Sow, S-O-W, win, like, yay, I win. Though listening to, what is his name? Alexander James Adams, something like that. Musician, really awesome. Has a great album for Halloween, which I can picture in my head, but I can't think of the name right now. If I think of it later, I will mention. When he pronounces it, and I suspect he is closer to correct than I am, it's more of a Sabin. So a little bit more V than W, a little more ah than O. Sa. Not sow, ow, like an owl, but more of a ah is what I hear when I hear him singing. The Unseelie Self might be the name of the album. Unseelie, though. Unseelie. Anyhow, so those who are witches in the know will say Samhain or Savin and not Samhain. Is how you can tell the outsiders. Those who have not been trained, who are just book learned. Oh, that's from so long ago in my life. But it was something, especially pre-internet, when everything was passed along through book and through the written word and through verbal communication. You know, it was a way to kind of determine how much somebody was plugged in and how much in the know, especially if they said they were, and then they would make that mistake, again putting in quotes, because it's just something to learn, and it depends on how information gets passed down. Righto. So Samhain is the Celtic New Year, the Witch's New Year, the Wiccan New Year. It is the beginning as we are heading into, as we have moved into full darkness. Now this is where the geeky comes in, because I, after much, and I mean much, thought, deliberation, contemplation, meditation, and all the rest of it, have landed on these correspondences. And they are correspondences, and they are mine. Take of it what you will. That when we look at, if we were to take a clock face and consider time on a clock face, where one journey around the said clock face is actually an entire day. So it's not the standard 12 hours, and it's not like a 24-hour clock that really goes around twice in order to show you 24 hours. But the 24 hours is one singular time around the clock, which would mean that every quarter would be about 6 hours, right? 4 times 6, 24. You got 4 spots to top, sides, bottom. And so if we put midnight at the top, then that would be 6 a.m. dawnish, would be 3 o'clock. 6 o'clock would actually, in this case, be noon, middle of the day. And what normally is 9 o'clock would be 6 p.m. and conceivably, dusk, right? And if we take especially that fixed marker of very specific time out of it, it's midnight, dawn, noon, dusk. Then if we were to look at the progression of the solstices and equinoxes, because those markers, right, of the times of day are quite specific and applicable to go, like, dusk and dawn are fuzzy, but also very clear. You know, the precise moment is calculable, but the experienced moment, while it is not so infinitesimally like, this is the moment at which we will call dawn, it is a broader experience because dawn takes a while, but there's a moment at which, from every individual's perspective, that the sun crests over top of the horizon, right? But there's the pre-dawn, and then there's like that post-dawn as it rises, and is it like when the full thing's up, like questions about what do you want to call, but there's a zone there. The same thing when I look at the seasons and how I wanted to relate the seasons over to this clock. Can I do it? What would it look like? You know, for the longest time, I considered Samhain as midnight, right? The witchiest hour. It's the witchiest time of year. Halloween's the witchiest time of year. It's for witches. Come on. It's when we come out. Please. Of course it's our time of year. Must therefore be midnight because that is the witchiest time of day, right? These two things must go together. There could be no other way. But you know what? That would mean that if I apply it to the clock, which I think that there's some interesting relations when we do this. Wow, we have tangent hard. This is so not where I thought this was going to go, or where I planned. But here we are. If we look at it as going from midnight and then to dawn, and we put Samhain at midnight, that would put Imbolg at dawn, which isn't wrong in certain ways. You know, there is a relationship there, but I eventually came to I don't think it's the most effective relationship, and that there is, from my perspective, a better way to look at it, which is thus, that the solstices and equinoxes align very nicely with the clock timings, because you have, in the clock timings, midnight, yes, we have, you know, when we put it on a strict time clock, you know, it's 12/6, 12/6, around that 24 hours. But that's not really how things work in the natural world. But there is a point of midnight. There is a midnight. There is a point at which we are halfway between dusk and dawn, and that is midnight. And there's a midday that is halfway between dawn and dusk. Those are real definable points, same as dawn and dusk. I mean, there's some variations a little bit, but ultimately fixed. And when it comes to the celebrations and the seasons in the year, from a Wiccan perspective, we do 8 Sabbats a year, 8 celebrations. Well, the fixed points in that would be the solstices and the equinoxes, because those are astronomically identifiable events, the same way that the midday, midnight, dusk and dawn are definable events, astrological even definable events. So those align really nicely, and it makes sense, right? That Yule, the time when everything is the darkest, and you know, the sun is the least it is at that point, that it aligns with midnight, which is the point at which we are the most without light, in a similar kind of vein. It puts the equinoxes, half light, half dark, at the dusk and the dawn, which are switching from one state to the other. So there's a really nice relationship again between those shifts and between the time clock and the seasonal clock, let's say, or the day clock, or the Terran clock, actually, if you think about it. Because as someone pointed out to me, a very lovely person, used to do Media Astra Actera, Helene, who I wish, contact info, not in my head. Anyhow, was the one who pointed out to me that we don't actually have a sunrise, we have a terra fall. Because the sun appears to rise to us because the earth has rotated enough that the hump between us and the sun has basically gone away, and we are now have been rotated, so the earth has fallen out of the way. That's sunrise. Sunset is actually earth rise, because the earth has now risen far enough around that it is blocking the sun from coming onto us. So really, it is our earth cycle, our Terran cycle, not a day cycle, if you will. So our Terran circle versus our sun wheel, which would be the seasons. So if we've got the solstices, equinoxes, and mapped out, then the other 4 celebrations, Beltane, Lunasa, Samhain, and Imbolg, because I was for a second they're not going to go in order, and I was like, that's kind of inappropriate. I should at least go in order. That's the pause. So those are cross quarter days, though some people call them the quarter days, and the other ones cross quarters. I call these cross quarters because that's what I was taught. Confusion reigns supreme. For me, they are, so in this case, Samhain, right, would be at the would be at like 10 and a half on a normal clock face, because it would be halfway between 9 and 12. It was in that place between, where in the Terran clock, right, we've got sunset out to the side, and then I'm doing it from my perspective. From yours, it's probably this way if you're actually watching. This way. So from sunset to midnight, right, that time zone, that's once you're out of the actual sunset part, you're into the first full bloom of night, where you fully transitioned into night. You are not at that definable midnight yet, but you're fully embraced by it. So it's a transition place. And what I found, the cross quarter, so Samhain, happens on the experience for us. We don't go to full dark when it comes to the sun. That's good, unless you live in the place like very, very north or very, very south, where you do go 30 days of night. Scary movie. Not believable in the slightest. There's so many factual things that are wrong with that, but still, scary movie. You will go long periods without the sun because the Terran rise is just taken over, and you're not getting the angles in order to give you less sunlight. Wow, digressions. But that sense of where was I going? I don't know. Pulling back. So Samhain, at that middle stage, we've fallen into fallen into full darkness. Like as we travel through the seasons, we are going from, well, really right now I've just been talking about the astrological experiences. So in this sense, Samhain falls between the experience of balance and as dark as it's going to get. So not at full dark, which is an interesting thing to start laying over top of our perceptions of Halloween. Because, the glory for me, my favorite time of year is from Samhain to Yule, because it is the darkest time. We have opened the gates to death, to the underworld, and they don't really truly close. It's not like it's a one-night deal, people, until we hit Yule and the light is reborn and things open up again. But meanwhile, it's so good. It's so beautiful. It's so dark, and people are so freaked out by it. The lights are already going up. We're not even quite, maybe we are today, I don't know, mid-October. And I'm already seeing Christmas lights. Such sadness. Embrace the darkness, my loves. Embrace the darkness. It's so good. It's so healthy. So restorative. Different podcast. So with the seasons, you know what? I'm going to leave the season thing for a different time, because that's just going to make this episode, which is already longer than they normally are, ludicrously long. So seasons for a different day. I'm just going to say the year. Thus, by starting the year, we are starting at an off time. We're not starting at this distinct period, but rather in this in-between liminal area that is rather undefinable and goes, continues on until the next time that we fall into that liminal place. So it doesn't end as soon as, like, it's not a discrete, the sun has fallen, therefore it is a new day. In this sense, the day starts when the full dark has arrived. So it's not the changing to the night, it's not the dusk that defines the new day, but rather this more nebulous thing of, no, we are fully embraced into the dark, and that is when we consider time to renew itself. The cycle to renew itself is within that dark and within that quiet and that stillness, kind of like birth. You start in the womb in the darkness and in the stillness, and then cycle and come through and out. All right, this went covered kind of what I wanted to cover, and at the same time, sideways than I was expecting. So at least some of that stitched together well and made sense. I will probably talk about that seasonal connection in the next episode. Take great care of yourselves. Much love, and bless be.